All right, everyone, welcome back for another episode of This Week in Charts via Carnivore Trades and Wall Street for Main Street. Starting off, as usual, with the S&P 500 here. I had a typical options expiration week. Lots of choppiness, which is pretty common to see during options expiration. Institutions like to burn out the theta on their calls and puts to make as many of them expire worthless as they can. So usually you see a lot of choppiness. It's typically not a lot of direction in an options expiration week as far as the overall market, just because they need to manipulate the stocks to expire or to end up where they want them so their calls and puts expire worthless. In any case, we see a nice down move here last week, and then in this past week we've just chopped sideways. So this is inside bar. This is putting in a slight bearish pattern, similar to the one you saw back in September. You had these 3 bars down and then chopping sideways and then a flush lower. Same thing here, 3 bars down, chopping sideways. I think we have the potential to move lower next week. I did give you guys that cycle date on May 3rd, and I said that there would be a window right around there. On the 7th, we did see a pivot top, and so that's played out pretty well so far. I do have another potential cycle date. It is May 26th, so that would be this Wednesday. We're going to look for some type of a move there. It could be a continuation of this little down pattern, and we could be putting in some volatility in the near term. Now, the window for that, I would say probably, if that doesn't play out by the 1st of June, which would be after the holiday weekend, then perhaps that cycle has failed and we'll just look for something else. But in any case, I am looking for a continuation pattern of this little down move. I do think this is bearish consolidation, and I think we're going to have to test that 400 level in the not so distant future. So moving on, we got to talk about crypto. Looking at Bitcoin, I talked last week about this head and shoulders, the M&A pattern, and I told you guys we'd have support at this area about 42,000. That did not last long, as you can see, and I said that it was probably going to get on this pivot here at 30,000 or 28,000. And yeah, to be honest, I did not think it was going to get there in 3 days' time, but that just shows you the power of these patterns. This is a major reversal. When a head and shoulders triggers and it gets volume behind it, it can really gain momentum in short order, and that's what we're seeing now. Bitcoin got a nice little bounce at the 200 moving average, but currently rolling over a bit. Now, I think it's possible that we do trade back up, maybe as high as 48,000 or so in the near term, but I do think we're going lower. I do think that it's going to go down to the low 20s at some point. As far as how fast that's going to happen, I have no idea. Again, I had no idea it was going to break down as quickly as it did, but that's just the volatile nature of crypto. So, and I think this is kind of an ominous sign. I've been talking to you guys for weeks about this. Crypto's really leading the market, and there's been lots of evidence of that, of the S&P lagging crypto by a week or 2 weeks. And you know, when the largest risk asset in a bull market starts to sputter, you have to look at the rest of the market as being vulnerable. And I think that's telling us what's going on here in the market overall. So you guys know my stance on that. I want to give a little bit of update on something I haven't covered. We're going to look at natural gas a little bit here. I think this chart's interesting. So you've got a big kind of volatile move here on the daily over the last year, but ultimately in an uptrend, a bullish pattern, all moving averages moving higher. You got a couple of higher lows, and the weekly is actually very good as well. So you got these 1, 2, 3 higher lows, and trend starting to change higher, although you did have a decent sell-off last week. And then you have these lower highs here, so you're almost putting in this kind of triangular pattern. If we'll just draw this in real quick. All right, so you see this bit of a triangular pattern. So if you can come back down, test this, and pass this back test, yeah, I think nat gas can move higher. The weekly chart is in a nice position. I will say though that the monthly chart is not as good. You have a lot of resistance at this area here, this giant red bar. That's a lot of resistance, and notice how you've made 3 higher lows, and you're making lower highs as well. So I think nat gas has got to first get above this pivot at about 340, 342. And then if it can establish itself above there and put in a consolidation pattern, it can move higher. And then if it makes a higher high, now you can say, well, now the trend is reversed, and the trend is now up. So natural gas, a little bit more neutral right now, but I do see some potential for a move higher, especially on the weekly time frame. So that's a nice little chart though. And switching over to precious metals here. Precious metals moving. Look at gold on the monthly chart here. We haven't looked at the monthly chart in a few weeks. Nice little breakout here. We look at the weekly. Nice breakout. We talked about this flag pattern that's playing out very well. And yeah, I was honestly expecting gold to have some resistance. I thought it was going to have to consolidate a little bit more to get through that 200 moving average, but money's really rotating. And when gold's going up, it's either an inflation play or it's a fear play. And I think we're going to have some fear pretty soon. Money's rotating out of crypto into gold. I've been hearing reports about that going on. I do think gold, though, is into some resistance now. I think it's going to need to consolidate a little bit to get through 1900 and make a move up to 1950. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't, but I'm looking to buy the dips here. Any pullback really is a good area to buy for a swing trade, or if you're just looking to accumulate. Same thing on silver. This silver chart is really awesome. You got these higher lows in here. Actually, if you look at the weekly, it's even better. So you have this large thrust up, parabolic move, was overbought. Then you got the 1, 2, 3 higher lows, and now it's pushing up. I think this thing gets through $30 sometime soon. Any pullback is a good area to buy. I think if you can get it in the 2650 area, that's probably a good area to accumulate on a pullback. I think silver can, if you keep putting in higher lows here and just keep coiling. So we look for, as technical traders, we look for these coiling patterns. So you higher low and then you come up here and now you're coiling up. As long as you continue to do that, it's going to build momentum to push through $30. Now there is a lot of resistance at 30, which is why it takes so long for it to push through there. But once it does, it's breaking out and it's going much, much higher. And then, so we have the other precious metals, which I would like to cover as well. Look at palladium here. Palladium was completely parabolic on the monthly time frame, pulled back during the pandemic, and then now made a higher high. But I think this is, it's just, palladium's very extended on this chart. It's parabolic, and then it came back down, and then it went parabolic again. I think it's going to have a lot of trouble with 3000, and I think it's going to need to consolidate for quite some time on the monthly chart before it can do anything here. But this is just an incredible run it's had. On the other hand, platinum having a nice counter trend rally. It is into some resistance in this area. It does need to pull back and consolidate, but I do think platinum has a lot of upside here. Just like uranium I talked about a few weeks ago, I think platinum is in a good position to make a long-term move, but it does have a lot of resistance around 1400, 1300. You see these red bars here. This is a breakdown area. It's going to need to do some consolidating if it's going to move higher in the future. Oh, and before I forget, I've been getting a lot of questions about oil. So I'll go over it a little bit here. So oil has some resistance here at the 200 moving average, and you have this big red bar here that is going to act as resistance. I think, again, like platinum and natural gas, I think it needs to consolidate to get through that. Overall, there's nothing wrong with the chart. The weekly chart's fine. You have this nice little kind of cup pattern, but I think it does need to do a little bit more consolidating to get through that. On the daily, we had this inside bar pattern that failed as you closed above that. So really nothing wrong with the chart from a technical position, other than I think that it's just needing to do a little bit more consolidating if it's going to move higher. Honestly, that said, I'm pretty neutral on oil. I'm not sure, because if we have a bearish half of 2021, that could put pressure on oil. And then you have the inflation aspect. So, I don't want to look at this from a macro aspect and tell you that I'm smart enough to figure that out. I can just tell you what the chart's telling me, which is that there's really nothing wrong with the pattern, but I'm not like in a hurry to go long either. I would consider it for a swing trade around 52.50 or $50 on some type of a pullback, or maybe even a back test of this downsloping trend line. If we look at that downsloping trend line there, it could be a good area to buy, but I'm not convinced that it's going to move higher, at least in the second half of 2021. Honestly, I'm a little bit more neutral. So I just wanted to clear that up for those of you who have been asking. All right, anyway, just wrapping up, keep it short and sweet this week. You guys take care, and I will see you next week on the charts.